JD Vance is in the news again after making some pretty wild statements. He basically said that Europe's biggest threat isn't Russia or China, it's its own governments limiting people's freedoms. But instead of just repeating the news, I thought it would be helpful to give you a timeline of JD Vance's career. His life story is actually very interesting and it can help you better understand him today. JD Vance was born in Ohio. He had a pretty rough childhood. His dad left when he was a toddler and his mom struggled with drug addiction. He was raised mostly by his grandparents, and that experience would later define much of his political career. In 2003, he joined the US military, where he served until 2007. When he got back, he went to Ohio State University and then got a law degree from Yale Law School in 2013. That's also when he met his wife, Usha Chilukuri. So JD Vance is incredibly well educated. After Yale, JD Vance started climbing the corporate ladder, first as a lawyer and then as a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. And this is where things get interesting. He built a very powerful network of some of the most influential people in the tech world. For example, he met a billionaire Peter Thiel, who later became a big sponsor of JD Vance's political career. Interestingly, Peter Thiel used to work with Elon Musk at PayPal, and similar to Musk, he also grew up in South Africa. Thiel was also one of the major supporters of Donald Trump back in 2016, when it was still very controversial for people like him to support Trump. Now back to JD Vance. In 2016, he made a surprising move. He left Silicon Valley and wrote a memoir called Hillbilly Elegy. I actually have a copy of this book here. If you haven't heard of it, it's basically his personal story of growing up in Appalachia, which is a historically poor region in the US. The book was controversial, but it was a bestseller. Funny enough, at this time, JD Vance was not a Trump fan. In fact, he called Trump an idiot and said his policies ranged from immoral to absurd. But then, things took a turn. In 2020, Netflix turned Hillbilly Elegy into a film. It was a hit, and Glenn Close, who played JD Vance's grandmother, even got an Oscar nomination. By 2021, JD Vance was back in the spotlight, but this time in politics. He had a meeting with Donald Trump, and just a few months after the meeting, he completely changed his tune. He publicly apologized for his past criticism of Trump, and by 2022, Trump endorsed him for the Ohio Senate race. And his billionaire friend Peter Thiel gave JD Vance's election campaign $10 million. JD Vance won the election and became a senator. 2 years later, JD Vance was elected vice president of the United States.